My name is Tammy Pike. I am the outdoor recreation planner for the Arizona State Office. And tonight we're going to be talking to you about the AHO Travel Management Plan. I want to welcome you to this public meeting, and we're going to introduce ourselves. Again, I am Tammy Pike. I am the State Outdoor Recreation Planner. And we are going to have everyone else introduce themselves. Nancy, will you start for us, please?
Yes, sorry, Tammy, my thing was buried. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Favor, and I'm a planning and environmental specialist at the Arizona State Office, and I'll be assisting with the NEPA compliance for this project.
Jeff?
Let's see. I'm Jeff Walsh. I'm a natural resource specialist here at the state office, and I'll be covering wildlife and conservation lands. So conservation lands in this case has to do with lands with wilderness characteristics.
Thank you. Matt?
Hello, my name is Matt Basham, and I'm the state archaeologist for BLM Arizona at the state office. And I will be responsible for compliance with the National Historic Preservation Act for the AHO Travel Management Plan. Welcome.
Thank you. Christine?
Hi, I'm Christina Francois. I am the plant programs lead at the state office for BLM, and I will be, I guess, running check on the non-native plant species and the native plant species.
Thank you. Charisse?
Good evening. My name is Charisse Flatt, and I am the GIS specialist working on this project, which means the data and map products. Thank you.
Blaine?
Hi, I'm Lane Cowger. I'm a realty specialist at the BLM State Office here in Phoenix, and supporting this project in the context of lands and realty issues.
Keenan?
Hi, I'm Keenan Murray, and I am a geologist with the state office, and I'll be looking into any mineral issues with this travel management plan. Thanks.
Thanks. Doug?
Hi, I'm Doug Woodbeck. I'm the rangeland program lead for BLM Arizona, and I'll be covering livestock grazing and vegetation.
So that is the team from the Arizona State Office that will be working on this, and working with us is Cameron Gale. Cameron?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Cameron, and our company is assisting the BLM with this travel management plan. We specialize in travel management planning, so we're looking forward to helping out throughout all the phases from here to the time that hopefully this gets signed and then implemented following that.
Thank you. So that is your team that will be working on this plan. Should you have any questions, when we get to the question time period, you can ask those, and these people will be answering those questions. A few simple ground rules so that we can get through tonight easily. Respect all attendees and staff, meaning let's try not to talk over anybody, and please don't yell at anybody. Your mics will be muted during the presentation, but if you have a question, please raise your hand or put your question in the chat and we will get to you. And comments can be submitted through the ePlanning website or on the, you can mail in those comments to us, and you'll be given those addresses here in just a few minutes. What we're going to do is talk about the goals of this meeting, which are to give you the boundaries of the area and to talk about the process, where we are now, what we need from you, and the ways to comment on this plan. And then we're going to get to your questions and concerns. Okay? You have a question? Nancy had already put up the addresses for you to get to the e-planning website and the email address to send your comments in. Thank you, Nancy. This map shows in yellow the Ajo travel management area. This is the area that we're going to be talking about as we go through tonight, and the area that we're going to be asking for your comments on. The blue that is within this area and the white that is within this area is not our jurisdiction, so we cannot work on any routes or any planning for those areas. The BLM is reviewing approximately 300 miles of routes that were inventoried in this area, and we really need your input to help us review those. We need information from you about how those routes are used, what you use them for, and when. We will take this interdisciplinary team that you've just met, and we will look at each of those routes and the resources and the uses for each of them. This is an administrative process. It is not a process of actually putting it on the ground. That will be done in a separate process later. We intend to designate each route as open, limited, or closed to form a designated route network. An open route means it's open to all modes. And a limited route means that it's recommended for some reason, either by travel mode, user, or season of use, to be limited. That could mean that the route is too narrow for anything other than ATVs or dirt bikes. It could mean that we only want certain uses on it during a certain time of year, such as in the ACE on the southern portion of this right now. The resource management plan states that that area is closed during the pronghorn antelope. Help me with the words here, Jeff.
Awning.
Thank you, fawning time. And a closed route means it's permanently closed to the public. Okay, so we're going to ultimately create a designation of a network of designated routes here. I can't talk tonight. I'm sorry, folks. And we're going to do that with your assistance. And that's why we're starting this meeting tonight. Where we are is in the information gathering. We have not started route evaluation yet. We're just here tonight to start with the information gathering. And what we're going to do then is go through route evaluation. We'll come back and do public scoping again after that, develop a draft environmental assessment, come back to the public again for comments, develop a final environmental assessment, and at that time, we will come back again to the public for more information. So you will have multiple steps in here where you're going to be able to give us your comments and explain to us what you think we're doing well and what you think we aren't doing well. These are the questions that we're asking you to answer tonight. And the most important one is this one at the top. Do all of the routes that you use show on the inventory map? And then we're asking a few other questions about those routes and the criteria that we should use. And we'll go over these again, but for right now, I'm going to switch and let Sharice show you how to look at those routes and how to give us comments. So Sharice, do you want to take over now, please?
Yeah, you bet. Let me share my screen. Give me just a moment to make sure I select the correct one. All right, is that coming through for y'all okay? You should be seeing the BLM National E-Planning NEPA register.
Yes.
All right, great, thank you. Yeah, so as Tammy mentioned, I'm going to first show you how to find the route inventory map. Then I'm going to talk through how to use the interactive map. And then I'm going to talk about how to use the information on the map to then submit a comment. So if you have a question in the chat, feel free to share it and type it in. I'll be kind of monitoring. Hopefully Tammy can help or others can help too. And Alfred, I'm hoping that maybe you click the link. Maybe you haven't seen, I don't know. Hopefully I'll answer your question in the next few minutes. If not, please feel free to raise your hand and we can kind of figure it out. All right, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. This is the e-planning page for this project. And you can click on any three of these tabs on the side, whether it be documents or maps or how to get involved. And click on the link where it says, please view the inventoried routes here. I'm not going to click it now. I already have it loaded up just in case I experience technical issues, but it should work for you all. But it should load this, what's called a story map. And so we'll scroll down and this just has a little bit of text describing the project like Tammy has already talked through. And then there is this map here. There's also, if you keep scrolling, some very like preliminary instructions, but I'm going to go through instructions much more in depth here. So what you'll do is you can actually interact with the map here on this page, but if you want to utilize the full functionality of the interactive web map, I encourage you to hit this button in the top right corner, the box and the arrow, to open it in a new window. All right, so now that that's loaded, I'll start first with this About tab. This is going to provide instructions on all of these buttons and what they do. Maybe you want to know, maybe you don't want to know, and that's just fine. But if you do want to know, I describe each of the buttons and what they do in this button here. This, as I mentioned, this is an interactive map, so you can zoom in, zoom out, pan around, click on the different features to get a little bit more information about the feature that you selected. You can also turn on and off various layers within this map. I'm going to zoom back out. All right, and so you can see that our main focus, like Tammy has talked about, is the route inventory, which is already on the map. We do have a handful of other layers for you to explore in relation to the route inventory data. A couple of them, we have already received a couple of public submissions, just wanting us to be aware of these routes in the area. One is the El Camino del Diablo and one is the Ajo Scenic Loop. So if that is one that came to your mind, making sure that we have it, rest assured we do, it's in the map, you can check that out. We also have a handful of other data layers for special management units in the area. That includes the areas of critical environmental concern, the Gunsight Wash Special Recreation Management Area. Ooh, that one doesn't pop out quite as much, but that is in that corner. And then the areas managed to protect wilderness characteristics in the crosshatch. So you're welcome to explore the map, click on the layers off and on. I'm going to go through a couple more of these buttons really quickly, just to help you really utilize it to your full advantage. I'll start with the search bar. If you live in the Ajo area and you're like, oh, I'm not used to like seeing things like this. This is a very like BLM way to present this. You can type in your home address here and it should navigate it to, navigate to you and then to orient you there. Or you can search any other address or kind of place name using this search bar. If you are one to go out and use your Garmin or even your cell phone to give a lat long, and you know of a route and you want to see where you were in relation to this map, you can take those lat long or GPS points and plug them into this tool and it should plot a point on the map of where you were. If you want to measure, saying, man, I really thought there was a dog leg on this road a quarter of a mile in and I'm just not seeing it here, you can use this measurement tool to measure on the map. If you are a Google Maps or a Google Earth user, I put on imagery as the preliminary base map just to kind of be able to see, you know, the disturbance in the existing roads on the map. For some reason, this is not loading, but you should be able to switch it if you would prefer a different base map. There it goes. Again, a few of these will provide like some more place names. You can switch that out at your leisure as well. Finally, because I know this is becoming to be a lot of information, if you are one, again, to take out a Garmin and collect GPX tracks and data, what you can do is after collecting it, you can actually bring it into this map using this file and load it in, and it will draw on this map. And so you can kind of overlay them to see if we've already collected all of them and have them in our inventory or not. Just be warned, it does not save in that map and we can't see that. That's for your reference only. So if you discover that, no, we in fact do not have all of the routes that you collected with your Garmin, please email us that data with the email address that I think has been shared in the chat. And if it hasn't, we will share it with you. And then we can have that data. All right. So I'm going to pause for just a second because I know that's a lot of information, but now I'm going to pivot to like, how do we use the map information to submit a comment? So what I would suggest is, you know, looking, if you want to make a comment about the existing inventory that we have here, I would encourage you to click on a route and utilize this route segment ID, you know, record it, jot it down, copy paste, and then come back to ePlanning, go to the participate now, type up your comment and reference that route ID number in your comment. That way we have context of to which route you're talking about specifically. And then go ahead and submit your comment. I think that's everything I had, Tammy. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think you did, but I want to reiterate again that especially if you're talking about a route that we don't have, and you have a track log of any kind, that you send us that, a map, whatever you've got, so that we can get it on here and understand where it is. And if you have a comment on a specific route segment, like she just showed you, we need that route segment ID to be able to put that information that you're sending us with that route ID so that we know which part you're talking about. You guys probably know these areas much better than we do. And if you talk about it in what I would call layman's terms, a name or something that locals use for a route, we probably will not know that name and will not be able to associate it with a route segment. So please use those route segment names. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Alfredo, were you able to see the inventory map finally? You still can't see it. Were you able to log in at all? Okay, it's a bandwidth issue.
Okay.
Is there some place you can go to get better bandwidth? I believe there's a couple places in town that are offering to help people get comments in. So you might want to check with I'm trying to remember the name of the two places that told us they would help. One of them was I think ISDA was one of them, yes. So if you can check with them, and then the other one was the Visitors Center. They had offered to help. So check with them. If you still can't get in, Aaron, please send us an email and let us know so that we can help you find a way to get to that map. Any other questions or concerns at this point? All right, Sharice, if you'll let me have the screen back,
Yep, I'll hand it back to you.
thank you. I always do that. I hit the wrong button, sorry, folks. We're gonna go back to this screen. These are, let me make sure I'm sharing. These are the questions that we're really hoping that you can answer for us. Again, the top question is, are there any actively used routes that are not shown on the inventory map? And that is very, very important to us at this stage during this plan. And then, are there any resources in the area that a particular route affects? For instance, do you know of an area that may have a cultural resource on it or something like that, that a route is damaging, or something that leads you to a resource that you want to be able to get to? So make sure you're giving us that information so that we know. I do know that there are people that do Jeep tours down here. So if you're doing Jeep tours, we need to know which routes you're using so that we can get that on the route evaluation plan, so that we know that those are being used for that. And that goes into the next couple of questions there. Do the routes serve a specific function for a public or other group, whether it's user groups, permittees, ranchers, whatever? And are there any roads that serve a specific function? Just like I said, with those of you that are running Jeep tours, or maybe there's a special route that you guys take for specific family functions or clubs or things like that. And then the next question is important too. Do you have a strong opinion on or a rationale for the type or mode of use that should not be allowed on a particular route? And what we're getting at there is there a route out there that you don't think a certain type of vehicle should be on? Maybe it's too narrow, maybe it's too rough for certain vehicles, whatever. You guys know these routes much better than we do. We'd love to have that information so that we can consider it as we're going forward. That's critical when we're making these route evaluations. For instance, if you know a route narrows at a certain point and a full-size vehicle is not going to be able to get down it, that would be great information for us to have so that we make sure we tell people that haven't been there before. And then, is there any criteria that you think we should consider during the route evaluation? Are there routes shown that are actually reclaiming? Is there something that you don't think anybody's used in the past 10 years and really shouldn't be opened back up? Anything like that. So those are the questions we're really asking you to help us with. So any of those that you can help us with would really be appreciated. And I'm going to go through some of what Sharice just did a minute ago. Here at the bottom again is the website for e-planning, the link to it. And then here is how you can get to the participate now to give your comments. And this is the page where you put your comments in. It's very important that you fill out all of these blocks because, for instance, if you tell us something about a particular route that you want us to pay attention to, we really need to know who you are, because if we don't understand your statement, for instance, you put 101,000 down for the route number and there isn't a 101,000 route, we're going to have to contact you and ask you which route you actually were talking about, because we want to make sure we're getting the right route number. Also, if you tell us that you're going to send us a file that has routes that are missing and we don't get that email, then we'll have to contact you and say, hey, look, we haven't got the email. Maybe you didn't have the email address right. Here's the correct email address. Can you send it to us? So things like that, we want to make sure that we get all of those comments. So make sure you fill this out so we can get in a hold of you. So do we have any questions at this time? You have to unmute yourself, Paul, sorry.
Yep.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah, Paul Johnson with the Cabeza Prieta Natural History Association in Ajo. And one thing I wondered about as I listened to this and as I looked over the online information was whether or not BLM has a currently existing Ajo travel management plan. And if so, where can we find it?
There is not a current travel management plan. That is why we're doing this project.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Okay. Aaron, to answer your question, dispersed camping sites will be talked about if we have them. If you guys know where dispersed camping sites are, please let us know where those are, because we don't go out and get all of those. So anybody that knows where dispersed campsites are, please let us know, because we will include those. Any further questions? If you have a question, make sure you unmute yourself.
Well, this is Paul Johnson again. I have another question.
Yes.
Is it the exclusive purpose of the process and the travel management plan to simply try and get an accurate inventory of what's going on the ground down there as far as routes, or is there a element of regulating use on the routes that's going to be included in the travel management plan eventually?
When we designate routes, it does tend to regulate what the usage is to some degree. For instance, if we decide that a route should not have full-size vehicles on it because of the size of the route, that route will be limited to vehicles less than full-size vehicle size. Now, in this area, we are not looking at this point as to regulating the number of vehicles or anything like that, because we're not in a dust abatement area or anything like that. But that does tend to limit some areas. If we get into a limited category with a route, it will limit the use by whether it's the vehicle type, the season of use, or something like that.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because one of the areas of greatest concern for our organization is the almost exponential increase in off-road use of BLM land in the Ajo block, particularly with respect to recreational vehicle camping off of the routes, creating new routes, and just creating new camps, trampling vegetation. This is going on all over the block, but there's certain areas that are getting hit worse than others, but it's having a very detrimental impact on the desert resource. And so I think one thing we're wondering is it a part of this planning process and this route identification process to try and address those impacts, those negative impacts that we're seeing on the ground out there in the desert?
Yes. And what this plan will do is it will limit where people can camp, do dispersed camping to 100 feet on any side of a road that is designated that they can camp on. For instance, Matt Basham is our cultural specialist, and we were just talking prior to this that there may be areas where there's a cultural resource close to a road where we would have to say that you could not go 100 feet off from the center line of that route to camp because of that cultural resource. There may also be areas where, for wildlife reasons, because of fawning season, that you can't go and camp in those areas during the year, and that's already in the resource management plan. So those will be cemented into this plan as well and reiterated so that people are aware of them. So yes, that could be further defined within this plan.
Well, is it accurate to say that the BLM does not only allows certain prescribed off-route uses? In other words, is it the general rule on your routes in the Ajo block that users are expected to stay en route and not go traveling off into the desert?
Correct. Even before this plan is completed, they are only allowed on the routes that currently exist. So that's
Okay.
the only place they're allowed. They are not allowed to be making routes wherever they want to.
Yeah. Very good. They are doing that, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is why we're trying to get more of these travel management plans done so that we can define the routes better. Instead of saying existing routes, we'll actually define the routes, be able to map them and show people exactly where they can go so that law enforcement then will have a map that they can show people whether they're on the route or not on the route. To first educate them, and then if they continue to do it, they'll step it up into law enforcement.
Oh, thank you. That's very helpful.
You're welcome. Did someone else have a comment? Matt?
Yeah, I think I was just gonna add, I've worked for some other agencies, Paul. And what makes BLM a little different than, say, the US Forest Service is the Forest Service actually has a system of roads and routes that are numbered and they're managed. What we're looking at with BLM routes is just the history of the use of public lands over the history of BLM, here in Arizona, since even when we were the GLO. So, I mean, depending on where you are in the state, some of these routes could go back many, many years. And so, as you wisely asserted, part of this effort is to identify the routes that are out there and gain an understanding of what's actually on the ground. Talk to stakeholders, members of the public, tribes, and various stakeholders and users of the routes to determine how they are used, and to also identify impacts and potential conflicts of users, how users use the routes out there. And that is exactly kind of part of the analysis that we'll eventually be doing later on in this process. And then my understanding, Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, but once a travel management plan is in place, it will eliminate unregulated cross-country travel.
Correct.
And at that point, we would have the ability to enforce like a notice of violation if a user was caught, way out, half mile from a route.
Yeah, it's very
Correct,
difficult
Tammy?
for law enforcement right now, like Matt's saying, to say that someone's not on an existing route. But once the travel management plan is in place, we get all the routes signed and everything, then it's very easy for law enforcement to hand a map to someone and say, okay, show me the route you're on. It's on this map. And when they can't, it's very clear to them that they're breaking the law. And like I said, generally, our law enforcement, the first time they catch someone, will educate them. The second time, then they step it up into actual law enforcement, where it could become a ticket. And, we are aware that people do things now that they shouldn't do. It happens all over Arizona on all public land, whether it's the Forest Service, whether it's BLM, whether it's the Arizona State Land Property. It's happening everywhere. And that's why we are trying to get these travel management plans done so that law enforcement can assist us and so that you guys can assist us by letting us know, hey, we've got an area out here that's being destroyed because people aren't doing what they should. Aaron, to answer your question, are we staffing up to support the new plan? We are trying right now to get all of our positions filled. It is taking some time to do that, but we are trying to get all of our positions filled. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Can you
Yes,
hear me
Roger.
okay?
Yeah, go ahead,
Um,
Roger.
So to be direct, are you looking to get those positions filled through future appropriations, or what's the mechanism that you're planning on using for expanding staffing in the area?
We have appropriations now to fill the positions that aren't filled. So we are going to continue to try to get those positions filled.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions or concerns? And Alfredo, I did see your comments about people taking and camping anywhere they want to, and we are aware that that is happening. So again, through this process, once the routes are designated, they will only be allowed off most roads. I can't say all roads because we don't know that yet, 100 feet from the center line. So anyone camp anywhere else can be and should be ticketed. Other questions?
Yes, Tammy, I'm wondering, this is Glenn Canoyer, Desert Sky Jeep Tours. And a problem I see out there is the signage on a lot of these roads is in pretty sad shape. I see some new, but there's a lot of it that you just don't know where you are, especially if it's, the first time somebody's out here.
Yes, and that will be corrected once this plan is done. And Glenn, just for you and other people that use this area a lot, we may be asking for your assistance to get that done.
You bet.
Thank you very much. It really does help when locals can help us get that done because we don't have enough people, even when we're fully staffed, to do those kinds of projects. So if we could get a group of you together to help us, we'll come out and explain how to put the signs in, which probably half of you have done already at least once in your life. And we can get them in faster and we can get everything in place so that it looks better. Yeah, Jeff and I were out there recently and we had a hard time figuring out which routes we were on because most of the signs had been bleached out or just were in such bad shape that we couldn't figure out which roads we were on.
We'd be lucky to find some signs sometimes.
Yeah, most times we were like, well, no signs on this road. Other questions?
I have a procedural question. This is Paul Johnson again, and I'm just wondering, aside from the manner that you just described for making comments online, is it permissible to submit comments during this scoping period in writing to the BLM?
Yes, Nancy, will you put up the email address again for everybody? It is in the, and the address for the news release because both the website for the information on how to send the comments in and the website are in that news release. So Nancy will put that up for you guys again.
Thank you.
Yes. I know not everybody has that. And Aaron, thank you very much for offering the ISDA on helping deploy signs because that will really help. And then the other thing I want to mention to everybody is once we get all the signs in the ground, if you happen to be out and notice a sign is down, please let us know right away. Because then what we can do is we can help you to get signs again to replace those, and we can keep the signs up. Because the more signs we keep up, the better the place will look in the long run.
Can you put that address up again, please?
She's got it up there now. In the chat. You look in the chat, it's in there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. What else can we help you with so you guys can help us with comments? Remember, you know, we, as much as we would like to be out on every piece of BLM land every day and know every piece of it, you guys know it much better than we do. So the more information we can get from you, the better planning we can do. All right, if there's no more questions, I will end this meeting. And I want to thank everyone for coming. We really appreciate your time. And I really appreciate any information that you send to us. It will really help us to move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. John, did you have any questions? You're muted, John. Stop.